Hello everyone, it's Shel from Paper Rock TO Studio. And today I'm sharing with you my page for hashtag November Daily Art Journal number 14, the prompt being Dreamer. I had found this magazine page when I was looking for one for yesterday's theme, Madness, and I ended up picking a different one, and I thought this one would work because I thought this would work better for Dreamer, because it's a girl sitting on a bed with her head down, and then it has this big white space in the background, the wall, and I thought, oh, I could draw on that and make it look like her dreams. So my original idea was to collage this onto my page, and I'm just using a piece of mixed media paper from a journal that I tear pages out, and then eventually I will bind all those pages together. It's the one I used for Pick a Stick Challenge and Mission Inspiration. So I was going to make the page more sturdy by putting gesso on the back, because this is a really flimsy page and I thought that that would be really smart. But then I got some gesso stuck to the page on the underside, and it stuck to my deli paper, and that gave me a different idea that I liked a lot better. And that was to make a transfer onto the page using the magazine page, and it would make it look more distressed and ethereal, and I thought that that would be more dreamy, and so I decided to do that instead. So I am using something called Omni Gel, which is basically an acrylic medium. You could also use matte medium or gloss. Well, gloss medium works better. You know, I don't like glossy stuff though, but this is actually glossy too, which disappoints me. But it was actually suggested by Shannon Green as a good transfer maker, where you put it on top of a picture and then you let it dry, and then you rub the paper off the back and make yourself a transfer to use later. But this is also a way you can do it if you want to apply it directly to something like a page or a canvas or whatever. You can use the gel, put the image face down, and then peel the paper off, and the ink from the magazine will stay on the page. However, I was impatient and I didn't really wait long enough to let everything dry, and I pushed too hard and I pulled off too much of the paper. I liked the background, but I didn't like how much of the paper I got off the girl, because it's made her not be distinct anymore. You couldn't really see her face, you couldn't really see, she just kind of blended into the background, and she wasn't a distinct figure anymore. So that's when I had to change my plan again. Still deciding to use the background, but deciding to replace the figure with a different one. So here I am looking through my magazines and trying to find something else to put on there. And I pulled a few different ones out and trimmed them out. And then now I'm placing them on the page and auditioning them and trying to decide which ones I wanted. Now that picture right there with that girl on the bed makes it look more like Madness, so I decided not to use that one. So I decided to use this one instead, which is a girl leaning back, which makes it look like she's leaning her elbows on the headboard, which I thought was good. So I'm covering up the girl image that I pretty much destroyed by peeling too much paper off and being too impatient. Imagine that, me being impatient. With this other girl. And so I'm adding a little bit of acrylic paint just to make sure that in the white area the other image is completely covered. And these are Deco Arts paints, medium gray and titanium white, just to try to blend in the background a little bit. It's a little bit darker than the gray on the background though, so I'm really having to blend and blend and blend. But I just wanted to make sure that that shadow was gone completely before I put the other girl on top. So, as I told you, I don't really care for glossy looks on things, and this is way too shiny, so I decided to give it an entire coat of matte medium as I'm putting the other image on. And that's after I added a little bit of black where where the other girl's hand was hanging over. I thought it might be visible. So this is using a 2-inch silicone brush. It looks like a brush, but it's actually a silicone spatula, which works really well. I got this from someone else as a gift recently, and I believe it's a Prima product. I'll try to find it and link it below if you want to find it, because it's a really good handy thing to have. It's easier to use than the other ones that I have. I have credit cards that I use to scrape, and I also have a one that's more like a handheld scraper. What's it called? Catalyst tool. And that one with the brush handle is easier than both of those. So I do like it. I'm touching up the edges with some white gesso. You can't really see in the video, but I got fingerprints around the edges a little bit that looked messy. So once my collage is dry, I'm going to start adding a shadow using Inktense pencils. This is a water-soluble pencil that once is dry is permanent. So it's a little bit different than a regular watercolor pencil because those will still react with water after being dry. That's why it's called Inktense, because I guess it turns into ink when you wet it, and then when it's dried up and has been activated, then it's not moving anymore. So they're pretty useful for mixed media. You know, we've been talking about not liking water-soluble stuff very much because I have to deal with sealing it and, you know, the whole thing. I mean, I still like it because it does a lot of different things, but I get a little bit annoyed sometimes with having to take so many different steps to seal it. So then I'm using some bright colors. So this is mostly black and white, although that image that I cut out, I was looking for a black and white one, but I couldn't find anything appropriate. So this one is kind of, they've used a filter. It's in color, but it's been given a filter to make it look like an old-fashioned, worn down, you know, like from the 50s or whatever. I think that they used that filter because she's got kind of 50s clothes on. It was an ad. I mean, they're all ads in those magazines. But can't remember what it's for, so I can't tell you. I was just looking for the girl. But it does have, it fades up enough into the black and white for me. I wished it was black and white completely, but it's good enough. It's close enough to being black and white because of their filter. So my original concept was to have a black and white photo with bright colored drawing on it. That was my idea. So, you know, it's one of those days. Things aren't going exactly the way I wanted, but it turns out fine in the end. So I'm just making swirly lines with different colors, trying to go for the brighter colors in the set. These, because they're pencils, they're not as bright as if I'd used, say, my Posca pens, which would have been an opaque brightness, but I was still trying to stay with the distressed, kind of faded photo idea. So I didn't want to use the Posca pens because they would have been too much for this. So then I thought I was going to draw in a lot of different images of what she might be dreaming about. She to me looks like a teenage girl, so, you know, what would she be dreaming about? She'd be dreaming about boys and driving and cell phones and pizza and, you know, butterflies. And I mean, that's obviously extremely stereotypical. And I'm sorry for any of you angsty teenage girls out there that are like, she is full of nonsense. I know that you're out there. I have a teenager in my house, not a girl, but yeah, a lot of opinions going on there. So then I remembered that I had this stamp set from Stampin' Up, which has some different girly stuff in it. So I decided to pull it out and use it for some of my images because that'll just make it faster. And I've got to make more pages. And, you know, I'm like, oh boy, I need to get this done. I need to, you know. So I decided stamping would be great. Once I remembered that I had the stamps, and then I had to find them. I have a lot of Stampin' Up stamps, a lot. Probably a couple hundred stamp sets, and I hardly ever use them anymore because I tend to draw. My first instinct is to draw instead of stamp, which is silly because I don't need to draw everything. There's thousands of stamps in the world, millions probably, that I could be using instead of drawing everything. But I've just been working on drawing so hard that that's just my first instinct is to draw. So the three things that I did draw are a bird, a butterfly, and a cupcake. And I went ahead and went around those with my black Posca pen. And then I had a saying that I wanted to put on here. And so I'm going to put that on. Oh, first I did some swirly lines with the white Posca pen just to like add a little bit of extra dimension to her dream cloud, I guess is what it is. I wanted it to say a saying that I've seen on Pinterest several times. She's a dreamer through and through. She plans to win or succeed. I can't remember. Anyway, though she hasn't got a clue. It was perfect. She's a dreamer through and through. Yeah, you'll see what it says. I know the saying. I've seen it 1,000 times. But anyway, I thought it was perfect for this. After I finished this, I wish that I had went and printed it on the computer instead of writing it with my handwriting. I hate my handwriting. I'm trying to like it, but I don't. I just don't. So I wrote the saying in my handwriting with my black Posca pen. Well, first I wrote it in pencil, and then I went over it with a black Posca pen, and it really wasn't standing out enough because everything is black and white. It just didn't really stand out. So I went around the letters with this bright pink Posca pen to make it stand out more, and I figured pink was a teenage girly color. Again, sorry goth girls, I know you're angsty and you like black. Lots of girls like pink, it's okay. I'm probably offending all kinds of teenage girls everywhere, I'm sure. But, you know, stereotypes are sometimes right, people. So, a lot of times they're not, but sometimes they're based on reality or some form of reality. So I went around all the letters with the pink to make it stand out a little bit more from the page. But then now it needs something that has color in the lower right hand side, which I didn't notice until after I'd already turned the camera off. I did write Dream On down in that other corner so that there would be a triangle, a visual triangle of the color on top of the black and white because it looked weird. But the camera was already off at that point. Sometimes I add things after I turn the camera off and I don't turn it back on because I get finished with something and I've finished filming and I'm like, ta-da, it's done. And then it's sitting on the desk and I notice something and I'm like, I don't feel like getting out that camera again and turning it back on. I'm just going to quickly do it and I'll just tell you about it. So I will tell you, I wrote Dream On in the lower right hand corner. So now full disclosure, now you know that I did it and I did not film it. So just adding a little bit of color, not going crazy, but just adding just a touch of color back into the black and white drawings or stampings and blending that with my water barrel brush as well. Using those same Inktense pencils. They never left. They've been on the desk the entire time. So you knew that, right? You knew it. If you liked this video, be sure to go check out my friend's videos using the same prompt, and also go to hashtag November Daily Art Journal on Instagram, and that folder on Instagram has tons of pages from all kinds of people who've been participating in the challenge, and you can still participate as well if you want to by just using the prompts, and those will be in that same folder on Instagram. Also, if you like this video, thumbs up, comment, subscribe. Those things help me out a lot with YouTube because they have to know that I'm making something that people like, and if you don't do those things, then they don't know, so then they don't recommend me and my channel doesn't grow. So that's it for me, I believe. Thank you very much. Bye-bye.